Hello, welcome to one more video. And just before I move on with the topic of today, you might be wondering where I am today. Well, I also wonder. This is just a background. It's lovely, isn't it? I just thought I would give a little bit of fresh air and look. So today we're going to be talking about job interviews. And just in case you haven't seen any of my videos before, I also speak about headhunters, recruiters, everything related to how you nail the next job, how do you apply for a job, successful job interviews. So now we're going to talk specifically about how do you land the next role through a job interview? How do you pass job interviews? Well, the very first thing I want to tell you is forget anything as a start. Just think about what is the question? What are they actually asking me about? So pay attention. People come so prepared, full of scripts, ready answers. They know you're going to have a script. So listen to the question and don't make any assumptions. So let's start. What is the very first question? Tell me about yourself. So how do you tell about yourself? Well, what do they want to hear? What kind of job you're applying for? So give a little bit of a walkthrough of your career, but emphasize the things that are related to the job. So whatever job you are applying for, whatever company, whatever their principles are, whatever their values are, focus more towards the match to that job. So a little bit of walkthrough about who you are, so where you were born, what got you here in this position, in this job, what you're doing now, what's your last job, and everything that you're going to talk about yourself has an aspiration that led you to now be interviewed for this position. So think about what are your skills, your strengths that you can bring to this conversation. So that matches that job you're applying for, or matches the company values and culture. Of course, you'd have done a lot of research by now that you understand this is a good match for this company and for this job. Next question. Why did you leave, or why do you want to leave your job? Oh, that's a tough one. I know that. However, think this way. You always have to put yourself on the place of the person who is interviewing you. So what would you like to hear? Definitely nothing bad about the previous employer. You know, one of the very common things that I hear from my clients, which of course, they will always tell me exactly what's happening so I can coach them on how they can answer that. But it's usually because there is a toxic work culture. I don't like my manager, he's a micromanager, or the company went through a huge restructure and now I don't like anymore the job. Now, you have to be very careful about the things you're going to talk about, because if it is anything that can be replicated in the new job with the new employer that shows a level of intolerance, that shows a level of inadaptability, or that shows that you might also not work out there, then that's where you need to think. So what's the safer answer here? Of course, cannot be bad mouthing. And of course, if you leave in the last job, it's not because you're happy there. So think about an answer that means it's just because you don't have this right now in your current role, but it's never personal. Example, well, I work for a family business, and for me to progress in my career, I need to get out of the company because, of course, I'm not going to take the place of the CEO, which, let's say, if you are SVP as an example, depending on the company, the next level would be a CEO. That is not possible because that's one of the owners of the company. He's not going to move away. So you can become a CEO. So you can say, well, being a family business as an example, I reached my ceiling. And I can only stabilize in this position. And I want to continue having new challenges. I want to grow in my career. I have big aspirations to become a CEO. Of course, if you're applying for something equivalent. Other options that you can say, well, the company is going through a huge restructure and I don't see anymore a possibility for me to stay in this position. rumors are that they are restructuring, they are changing. My role is going to change as well. And I love my job. I want to do what I know. I don't think I have learned enough to already to be changed to another position or to another department or to another country. So it is time for me to secure myself before that becomes really true. And then I'm told to, I have to accept whatever I'm giving as part of the new restructure. So those are examples. So it's always something about, what is actually missing, not what's wrong. No opportunity for growth. You reach the ceiling. You are already feeling that you are in the comfort zone. And so, or maybe you want to change if you're applying for a different industry. You want to change because you're fascinated about, for instance, innovation technology, and you've been the whole life in FMCG. So you're here today to discuss and to tell them what you bring on the table as part of your skills that can be an added value to this new industry. And it's something that really excites you. So you always need to think, what is the opportunity itself, the reason why you want to change, and not so much why you want to leave. So the next question could be, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Well, think again, always from the position, from the perspective of, if you were the employer, what would you like to hear? You'd like to hear that you bring in stability, longevity with the company, that you want to grow, you want to promote. Why? Because if you want to grow and promote, you're going to have to prove yourself. You're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to show results so you can get a promotion. So in the next 5 years, what realistically would that job be, that function be with that company? So if you're joining now as a VP, and then there is, let's say, SVP is the next role, and then perhaps, or it could be a regional or become more like a multi-regions VP or SVP. So you need to analyze what's the hierarchy, what's the structure like, and what's realistic to say, what's your 5-year goal? So it's not so much about your personal life. You can always say, well, I want to be in a position where I'm stable financially, my family is secured, the education of my kids, are the best possible standards, and I want to be able to afford. However, in terms of personal career satisfaction, I want to grow to a regional VP, or I want to grow to a SVP. So it depends on the role, the company again that you're applying for. But show this ambition, this interest to grow, because naturally that proves you're there to stay, you're not just passing by. So this is another way to consider. Now, tell me about your weaknesses. And I'm not even going to mention strengths for now, because strengths is way too easy to talk about. Strengths is always things we have so many to refer to. But now, what are your weaknesses? Then, hey, know that weaknesses are not necessarily weaknesses for this interview. It is something that you have to admit, well, this is something that I need to improve. But at the end, it does not cause any big troubles if you don't fix it, because at some age, at some stage of our lives, changing it is really like, good luck. So let's get some examples about good weaknesses. You can say, well, during times of pressure and deadline, I tend not to delegate, and I end up in overwhelming myself. I don't let the team finish their work because I just want to get things done. And sometimes that can be frustrating. My team thinks, why you're not letting us do our job? And I just want to get it done. I get impatient, but it's really because of the tight deadline. I just want to deliver. However, I do understand it is important that I allow my team to do their job, and I talk to them about the importance of deadlines, and I'm really, really working on that. I believe I'm already improving. So here we go. It's not really a bad weakness, because long story short, if you don't change about this weakness, the company is going to say, whatever, in the worst case scenario, he will deal with the team. They understand it's part of his personality, her personality. But what matters to us, they're getting us the results and they're delivering within deadline. Now, why should we hire you? Yeah, I have a bunch of questions here and I'm picking. So why should we hire you? Then think about it. All the reasons why you would hire yourself if you were that employer asking that question. So, well, I have the expertise in such and such, everything related to the job description or to the conversation. Basically, if they need somebody with to restructure a department or somebody to bring a fresh blood, to bring innovation, say, well, I have been dealing with innovation throughout my last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And I will tell you what I've done so far and the results that my company has generated as part of my implementation of my new strategies. So I'll be able to replicate the same to you. And I know that you need somebody who comes with fresh ideas and innovation. So whatever you relate, whatever you say, make sure that it is like, I have what you need and I have done it. Use an example of when you have done it and basically say, and guess what? I'll bring the same to you. So basically, why should we hire you? So because you can do, you can deliver, and you can even go beyond it. And you have done it, you can prove it. If you haven't done it, you can say, I have enough information about your company, this business, that I can present you a full strategy on how I would do that. That's another opportunity to say that. Okay, so I am again picking another question from so many that I have. What are your salary requirements? That is always a nasty one. So salary requirements, it depends. If you're talking to a third-party recruiter, recruitment agency, in other words, or an executive search firm, then you want to tell them, well, this is what I was doing before, or this is roughly what I have in mind, give the figures, tell them, but I'm flexible. Do you have a budget that your client is paying? Because if you don't tell the third-party recruiter, they will be like, you know what, he doesn't know where he wants to get. He might be too expensive after all, or he might be, too cheap, which for them also, they don't make enough money out of you. And maybe you'd come across as underqualified for the position. So headhunters, recruiters, give the salary range or tell them, hey, I can tell you what I was making before, but I'm clueless those days. So do you think this is, I would expect around maybe 20% on top? This is usually reasonable expectation, 20% on what you're making to change jobs, to justify changing jobs. But tell them, is this realistic? Are you able to share with me what's the budget of your client? And then go with the flow with the headhunter, because they are there to help you out. The more that you get in terms of salary, the more it's going to be their percentage, the bill they're going to get paid for placing you, presenting you to their client. Now, if we're talking about employer, please, by all means, if you're talking directly to your potential employer, to the company, could be talent acquisition, could be human resources, it doesn't matter the department, it could be the direct line manager. Hey, you're not going to talk about numbers. You're going to really resist it. So you're going to say, let's pretend the name of the person interviewing is called Karen. Karen, wow, you caught me off guard now. I really don't know what to tell you because, I'm so enthusiastic about this opportunity and even being here today with you, being interviewed, that I don't know what to tell you. I haven't thought about numbers and it's been really a long time since I last discussed salary. Everything has changed with pandemic. I'm sure you must have a fair budget, Karen. And honestly, this is secondary importance to me. If you think I'm the right candidate or after the selection process at the end, we can always discuss that. And I'm happy to, to be flexible and to discuss what are the requirements I could possibly have in mind. But I really don't have any numbers today for you. Would you be okay with that, just pushing me through the process? I'm sure you have a fair budget. And if Karen insists, and then it's time for you to say, well, again, it's a tough, Karen, can I do a little research and come back to you on that? I don't have the numbers. Now, some people will say, well, but they get irritated. They might disqualify. No, they will not. They will not. They will use as an excuse if they don't like you. But they will not disqualify you just because you're not giving the numbers, right? So it's the time to say, I'm clueless. Why? Well, if you give any numbers, guess what? You are creating your own budget. And they might say, this is a good budget. We are not aware of what the market's paying. and then you could be getting much more. Or they might be having a lot of people giving the numbers, and then your number goes in the average. And it could be, you know, you're reducing the options to get more money, or maybe you're too expensive and then you still want that job and you might be disqualified. So you could be either underqualified or overqualified. Either way, you don't want any of those two. You want to continue in the process. You want to be the flexible person, willing to see what they have to offer and flexible to discuss. When you reach an offer that you receive, even if it's totally beyond, then it's time to negotiating package benefits, and then you already have the power. They're more convinced about you. So then it's easier to talk about money. Okay, I don't want to extend myself too much today here. I just want to have a few questions. I will continue this conversation. I don't want to make this video too long. I know your time is very valuable, and I think that was already something to start sinking in. If you want to prepare your answers to those questions, send me across, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll promise I will take a look at it. Depends on the number of people who do that. It will take more or less time to respond and evaluate your answers, but I'll be happy to do so. So thank you very much for watching. Please stay tuned. Keep watching all my other videos. I have several valuable information that will help you land the next job. I'm Isabelita Castillo, and I look forward to hearing your comments. Remember to subscribe. Thank you very much.